So as we begin, I wanted to start with this first slide because I think that we had one of these last year that helped to spread a little bit of light and sunshine and thought to our Passover Seder table. And I know we all have our own Seder plates, but this was one that Casey Wright had put together, where she has suggested that perhaps maybe we need to put a little bit of something different on the table. So we have our favorite mask, some comfort food, because we deserve it after this year. I love that. And it has to be kosher for Passover though. Candle, because not only are we observing the holiday, but we want to remember those who we've lost this year. We also have our group video call, which we have together so that we can be together. Something blooming, a reminder that joy and new beginnings are right around the corner. And of course, matzah, and I love the answer, it's because some traditions persevere no matter what. And that is very true. So as we begin, we're going to start with a meditation. And this meditation is going to be something you can read on your own, but I'm also going to play a small recording. This recording is a preview of something that will be included later. And if you were part of the call with Noah Aronson earlier, you'll know what this is. So take just a moment as we read this. Is anyone ready for the second page? What I really liked about this is that it says at the end, I don't know if you've gotten there, but it tells us why there are 15 steps to our Seder. It says that in the temple of old, 15 steps led up to the altar where we brought korbanot, the sacrifices which drew us near to the Holy Blessed One. The Seder we celebrate now unfolds through 15 steps, a chance to make intangible offerings on the altar of our hearts. On this festival of spring, what are you bringing to draw near? Having come through the sea of reeds, what song will you sing? And we'll keep that in mind as we continue to move forward. This is what the Torah commands us. Remember the day of your exodus from Egypt. And what does it mean to remember? I'm going to ask that Teresa, if you would be willing to unmute yourself, if you would like to read that for us, that would be wonderful.
Remember is a word of action, not mere mental imagination. Jewish memories are meant to find fulfillment in deed. Thus, the Passover Haggadah instructs us. In every age and generation, the task is ours, to see ourselves as if we had come out of Egypt. Tonight, we reenact history in physical form, tasting the bitterness of bondage, coming into contact with metaphorical mortar and brick, so we can experience Egyptian oppression. The Seder is designed so that we appreciate oppressions overcome on the road to redemption. That historical redemption occurred at the foot of Mount Sinai, where we enter the covenant that demands we work for the repair of our world and the end of all oppression. The memories we bring to life around our Passover tables are meant not only to connect us to past oppression, but more importantly, to direct our future work for the redemption of all humanity.
That was a beautiful reading. I promise I won't continue to forget I'm muted. But now's the time if you would like to light your festival lights. You can all, I see some of you have candles if you'd like to do that. Is there anyone who would like to lead that?
Don't worry about it.
Courtney, do you want to lead us in that?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, breath of life, who sanctifies us with your commandment to kindle the holiday lights.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot that there was a little bit of a difference in the Hebrew, but it's the breath of human life, and I do think that's beautiful. And at this point, we come to the next part of our Seder, which is to begin it. And we think of all the things that are involved in it. As we said, there are 15 steps. And one of the things that I suggested at the beginning was that there is going to be an opportunity to hear something a little bit different and a little bit beautiful, which is that Noah Aronson has put together a Maggid in song in which he adds together 3 different parts of music. One we've already heard, and 2 we're about to hear, and this is the second one. So I'll play that for you.
Kadesh Urchas Karpat Yachatz Magid Rachza Mosi Matza Maror Korech Shulchan Orech Tzafun Barech Halel Nirtzah,
which is a wonderful way of just reminding us of all of the different parts of our Seder that we are about to partake. And now we can all join together as we say, "Here I am, ready to perform the mitzvah of the first cup of wine and dedicate this whole evening to telling the story of the miracles and wonders that were performed for our ancestors in Egypt on the night of the 15th of the month of Nisan, more than 3,200 years ago." And so we hold up our glasses of wine. You can't really see mine, but I promise you it's there. The Kiddush is the blessing that helps us to sanctify Shabbat and the festivals and to make these moments in time holy. Before we recite Kiddush, we will all fill our glasses. And we're going to go ahead and do an abbreviated Kiddush. And if you'd like, you can recite with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. And Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. And then we'll continue with the Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We are so grateful to be able to be here again together on the second night of Passover. Enjoy your first cup of wine. And now we enjoy the opportunity to wash our hands because we haven't done enough of it this year. So if any of you would like to do that, this is the one that we do. This is the one where we do not actually say a blessing, but this is the one we will do before and after. The second one will be right before we eat the meal because tradition has it that we wash before we eat. So if anyone would like to do that, now would be the time to go and maybe grab some hand sanitizer because I know we all have some.
Sanitizer?
Thank you. So too often during our daily lives, we don't stop and take the moment to prepare for whatever it is we're about to do. And so we're going to pause as we wash our hands now to consider what we hope to get out of our time together. We now partake of karpas. Karpas, of course, is our green vegetable. In this case, most likely it is parsley. And if you take a piece of parsley, parsley reminds us of spring and rebirth, and the salt water reminds us of the tears shed by our ancestors. And we'll recite together the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri ha'adamah. Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the earth.
Why didn't you guys like it? I hate it. It's like water.
Okay, shush. We're getting a commentary from the peanut gallery.
Can I want it?
Okay, so now the big question is, now that we've taken a little bit of our parsley, are you hungry? Are you getting hungry?
Yeah.
Our ancestors understood that we all sort of needed a nash throughout the first part of the Seder. And so for those of you who might enjoy something like the gefilte fish or your hard-boiled eggs, this is the blessing we will recite so that you can go ahead and start eating. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Maybe it's nuts, or if you have celery, something like that, feel free to enjoy. And I'm going to invite Judy Heller. Do you want to read this next paragraph?
Yes. There are 3 pieces of matzah stacked on the table. In a moment, we will break the middle matzah into 2 pieces. We will wrap up the larger piece and before the end of dinner, hide it. This piece is called the afikomen, literally dessert in Greek. We will look for this later. Matzah reminds us of how quickly the Israelites had to leave Egypt. They took their dough before it could rise, and we think it looked something like matzah.
And so now we uncover and hold up the 3 pieces of matzah, and we say, halach ma'anya. This is the bread of affliction, which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. And we break the middle matzah. And now we open up our front doors and we recite. If somebody in my house would open up our doors, that would be great. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are needy come and celebrate Passover. At present, we are here. Next year, may we be in Israel. At present, some people are still suffering as though they are slaves. Next year, may everyone be free. And now you can close your door and return to the table as somebody hides the afikomen.
And we can join in together in singing Halach Ma'anya. Halach Ma'anya, Diachalu, Achailu Ahavtana, Be'ara Dimitzrayim, Be'ara Dimitzrayim, Kol Tikfin Yetri V'Yechol, Kol Nisrichi V'Yisach, Ashata Hacha L'Shana Haba
Beautiful, thank you. Catherine Cooper, would you like to read this next page?
Catherine's outside feeding our cats, which just arrived from outside. I will read it.
Thank you.
The story of Exodus from Egypt fulfills one of the mitzvot commandments of Passover. We are encouraged to tell the story as though we ourselves were freed from slavery. We will explore the Passover story through the themes of the 4 questions, the 4 children, our ancestors, the 10 plagues, Passover symbols, and the Hallel Psalms.
Okay, and now we continue with our 4 questions. And I believe that I need my little list in here, and he ran into the other room. Just one moment. Ethan? Okay, I guess my son Jonah is going to do them this year. Although now it sounds like somebody heard it. So the second cup of wine is poured as our questions are asked. Maybe they'll do it together.
4 questions? Okay. Can I start now?
Go right ahead.
Now?
Yes, no. You're doing great, buddy. Wonderful. And now I'm going to ask if either Tom or Julie Bainbridge would like to read the questions.
Okay. Why is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights, we eat chametz and matzah. Tonight, why do we eat only matzah? On all other nights, we eat any kind of herbs. Tonight, why do we eat the bitter herbs? On all other nights, we do not dip even once. Tonight, why do we dip the greens twice? On all other nights, we are sitting or reclining. Tonight, why do we all recline?
Now, of course, we have our 4 children. We're told on 4 occasions the Torah instructs parents to teach their children the story of Passover. Thus, the sages inferred that there are 4 types of children. And is there anyone who would like to be able to be the person to be our wise child tonight? Someone who's not in my family, anyone? Rita, why don't you take that for me?
Wise in your family?
You're all wise. Rita.
I'm wise.
I'm waiting. The wise children ask, what is the meaning of the duties, laws, and rules which God has commanded? Such children should be taught everything, for their minds are open to learning about and appreciating our heritage.
Wonderful. Is there anyone who wants to take on the role of the wicked children?
I will.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. You've got a whole bunch of other people who want to.
Please, Fran, go ahead.
Okay, just a second. Let me go back to the spotlight. The wicked children ask, what does this service mean to you and not to us? Since such children cut themselves off from the community of Israel, we respond, I do this because of what God did for me when I came out of Egypt, for me and not for them. For had they been there, they would not have left Egypt with us.
And now we have our simple children. Would anyone, I'm in the middle of them apparently. Not anymore. Would anyone like to be the simple child?
Hi, this is Catherine.
Hi, Catherine. Will you be our simple child?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Simple children ask, what does this mean? To them we say, with a mighty hand God led us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And to children who do not know how to ask, we begin by explaining that our Torah commands, you shall tell your child on that day. The 4 children represent attitudes more than types of people. All 4 children are in each of us. Each is a face we sometimes show.
Thank you. Beautiful reading.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have someone who would like to read this next part? I was going to say, Tiffany, do you want to read?
Sure. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, but God took us out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Had God not taken our ancestors out of Egypt, then we, our children and our grandchildren, would still be enslaved to Pharaoh in Egypt. Even if we all were wise and perceptive, experienced and versed in Torah, it would still be our duty to tell about the Exodus from Egypt. Once we were slaves, now we are free people.
And we already had a beautiful version of Avadim Hayinu, but we recalled that yes, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and now we, as if we ourselves, are free. And I don't know, did you want to read it again?
Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, 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 ata b'nei chorin.
Beautiful. And if anyone really wants to hear it again, I know a little boy who would love to sing it for you. And now we get to the point of telling our story, which is when we recall our ancestors. And Dan Young, how about you read this part, or at least the first paragraph?
Our story starts in ancient times with Abraham, the first person to have the idea that maybe all those little statues his contemporaries worshipped as gods were just statues. The idea of one God, invisible and all-powerful, inspired him to leave his family and begin a new people in Canaan, the land that would one day bear his grandson Jacob's adopted name, Israel.
And you can continue if you're up for it.
God had made a promise to Abraham that his family would become a great nation, but this promise came with a frightening vision of the troubles along the way. Your descendants will dwell for a time in a land that is not their own, and they will be enslaved and afflicted for 400 years. However, I will punish the nation that enslaved them, and afterwards they shall leave with great wealth.
And for the next person, Amy, did you read yet? Amy, if you'd like to read, go ahead. You're muted. I think
now it is time to raise our glass and remember that the Jewish people's struggle for life and freedom didn't end when the Israelites left Egypt. Throughout our history, others have risen up against us, but we are still here. God saves us from those who seek to harm us. When we read this declaration, we honor the ways God has helped save us from destruction.
And so now we raise our glass and we say, V'hi she'amda lavotenu
v'lanu.
Good. This promise has sustained our ancestors and us. And we put our glasses down at this time without taking another sip. Who has not, I'm going to forget who all has read, so please raise your hand if you have not read yet. Brett, will you please read this section for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
We continue with a reminder of the promises God made to Abraham. We celebrate the Exodus by recalling God's part in our freedom using the words from Deuteronomy.
And the Hebrew is Arami Oved Avi, Vayared Mitzrayma, Vayagor Sham, Bimitei Ma'at. And you can continue in English.
Thank you. My ancestor was a wandering Aramean, and with just a few people he went down to Egypt and sojourned there, few in number. And he became there a great nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians dealt ill with us, and afflicted us, and laid us upon us hard bondage. And we cried unto Adonai, the God of our fathers, and Adonai heard our voice, and saw our affliction, and our toil, and our oppression. Shall I continue?
So this section is a reading from Exodus, and we often comment that there are lots of fours in the Passover Seder. And this is a short explanation about why we have four, because there are 4 times in this section that God tells us in different ways that God is going to save us. We're told, I will bring you out, which is V'hotzeti. We are told, I will deliver you, V'hitzalti. We are told, I will redeem you, V'ga'alti, and as well, I will take you out, or I will take you to be for me people, which is V'lakachti. And Brett, if you want to read the whole thing, you can, but I think we're ready to move on to the next. And so God took us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and with an awesome power, signs and wonders. God brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now I have brought the first of the fruit of the land, which you, O God, gave me. Our story begins. Is there anyone who would like to read this? Okay, I'm going to let Jonah read the first paragraph.
Land of Egypt, the heat is unbearable. We, the Israelite slaves, labor under the harshest conditions. The sun scorches our sun, our muscles strain and strain, while we must keep laying bricks. Our mouths are dry from the dust of the ground, but we can't get water. The overseers will beat us if we do, and sometimes even if we don't. Pharaoh tries to kill us. He worries we'll soon outnumber the Egyptians. So he tells the Hebrew midwives, all Israelite boys are to be killed when they are born. Fear sweeps the land, but the edict does not deter the brave midwives. So Pharaoh declares, when an Israelite boy is born, drown him in the Nile.
Good job. Who would like to read a smaller part?
Elizabeth?
Is there someone who would like to read? Go ahead.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, how do I do that? A young woman named, oh boy. Okay.
Yocheved
and her husband, Amram, both of the house of Levi, have a baby, and it is a boy. But Yocheved is determined to save her son. He must live. She tenderly kisses him, tucks him ever so carefully into a little basket caulked with tar, and places him among the reeds by the bank of the river Nile. Miriam, the little boy's sister, watches from the distance. She follows the basket as it flows right to the spot where Pharaoh's daughter is swimming. The Egyptian princess sees the baby, and even though she suspects he is an Israelite, she defies her father and plucks him from the Nile. She names him Moses, one who is drawn from the water, and decides to raise him in the palace as her own. Moses' sister is very clever. She goes to Pharaoh's daughter and asks to bring Yocheved to help care for Moses. Yocheved secretly raises her own son. Moses grows up, enjoys a life of leisure, knows every luxury in the land. Then one day, Moses looks out the palace windows at the Israelites, and anger and sadness overcome him.
Great. Paul, do you want to read the next section?
Moses witnesses an Egyptian taskmaster viciously beating an Israelite slave, and he becomes so full of rage that he secretly kills the Egyptian and saves the Israelite. Fearful, Moses hides the body in the sand. Someone tells Pharaoh what Moses has done, and he is ready to punish him with death. Unable to live as an Egyptian any longer, Moses runs away from the city and arrives in the land of Midian.
Thank you. Now for our second Paul Burt, do you want to do the next page? Maybe not this moment, but we'll have you do it again. Oh, there he is. There's Paul. Go ahead.
Oh, I got my camera on, so you don't want to see my ugly face. Okay, so soon he falls. Oh, I got stuff covering it. We're actually watching. Soon he falls in love with Tisphora, the daughter of a Midianite priest, and he becomes a husband and a father. Time passes, but the Israelites still suffer and cry out. And God hears their moaning and remembers his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
You can keep reading. Go ahead and finish the page.
Moses.
Did you read that last paragraph? We weren't able to hear you.
Yeah, your internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
So maybe we should just watch.
Okay. All right. Larry.
I got bad internet. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll say, Larry, I saw you before. Would you like to read? How about?
Okay. Moses is out tending to the flocks and arrives at Mount Horeb. There he beholds a bush on fire, but the bush is not consumed by the heat. Out of the bush, God calls to Moses. Behold, I hear the cry of the Israelites. I am here to rescue them from the Egyptians and bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. Go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh will resist, and then I will put forth my hand and smite Egypt with signs and with wonders. So God sends 10 terrible plagues to punish the Egyptians and prove that there is only one God, Adonai.
Thank you. And I was going to say, Dee or Chuck, would one of you like to read the next part at the top?
Campaigning.
I don't know if Dee and Chuck had heard me though.
Firstborn.
We have a mild problem. We only see half the page.
I think that's a little bit more than a mild problem. Do you see the top part of the page?
It's cut off on the right side.
Yeah, the right side is cut off.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling us.
Sure. All right. I think Meredith Klein is very anxious to read some of the top of this. So go ahead, Meredith. Or not.
When people suffer, it is not possible for others to be happy. We care about all living creatures. The rabbinic sages felt it was important for us to remember this. And so during this section of the Makahid, we lessen our joy and celebration, remembering that Egyptians suffered for our freedom.
Right. And so now we know that there is a tradition of spilling out a little bit of wine. And as Rabbi Sofian likes to say, there are two different types of people, those who like to wipe their hands after they've done that, and those that like to lick them off their fingers. You can determine which type of person you are by what you do at the end. And here we have another short piece of music by Noah.
Dam Sardea Kini Arov Deveshchi Barad Arbe Choshech Makat Bechorot.
You'll understand later why he repeats that, but for us, that is perfect. I know, Meredith, you look like you have all of the different plagues on your face. So thank you for the visual representation of all of our plagues. We needed that. I appreciate that. So how many of you wiped your hands? Let's see. Versus how many of you actually licked them? All right, I think we're the second group. Okay, excellent. Now that we know, we can move on. All right. No Seder is complete unless we know. All right. So now we get to enough, Dayenu, right? And so we have, at least in our family, and what I've brought to, no, please go get it. We tried to do this last night in our family alone, but it got a little bit rough. We're hoping tonight is a little bit better, but there is a tradition of the Afghani onion. And what that is it's tied to the biblical story of the Jews who were complaining about getting manna, the manna that God had given to them, because they recalled how they longed for the onions that were back in Egypt. And so we know our ancestors were infamous for their lack of appreciation, their stubbornness, and their complaints. And so we remember this as we begin with the next part of our story. It is easy for us to sing Dayenu and claim that each one of these good things would have been enough. But for those in the middle of the process of liberation, we recognize that it is much harder to constantly be appreciative. And so now we'll continue with Dayenu. And before we sing, Jeff Stoller, would you like to read the English on that? Jeff Stoller?
Had God brought us out of Egypt and not divided the sea for us, Dayenu, divided the sea and not permitted us to cross on dry land, Dayenu, permitted us to cross on dry land and not sustained us for 40 years in the desert, Dayenu, sustained us for 40 years in the desert and not fed us with manna, Dayenu, fed us with manna and not given us the Sabbath, Dayenu, given us the Sabbath and not brought us to Mount Sinai, Dayenu, brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, Dayenu, given us the Torah and not led us into the land of Israel, Dayenu, led us into the land of Israel and not built for us the temple, Dayenu, built for us the temple and not sent us prophets of truth, Dayenu, sent us prophets of truth and not made us a holy people, Dayenu. For all these alone and together we say that.
And now this is our moment for singing. Courtney, did you want to sing it for us?
Of course. Ilu hotianu mi Mitzrayim, hotianu mi Mitzrayim, Dayenu, 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 Ilu natan lanu et Shabbat, natan lanu et Shabbat, Dayenu, 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 Ilu natan lanu et Torah, natan lanu et Torah, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
My husband's really sad he just missed that.
Daddy, it's okay. We can always do it next year.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'd like to share something with you at this time.
Oh,
Jonah, stop, please. You are not muted. This, I really like this. It's a small video that I'm actually, well, I'm going to have to do this a little bit differently and share my screen if I can. I forgot that I can't do it this way.
Share screen.
Actually, well, yeah, I'll come back to it. I'm just going to do the, so you can hear it instead of actually see it, unless everyone is okay with that. Not okay with that. So here we go.
Dayenu is the catchy traditional Passover song, over 1,000 years old, that is part of the long Passover Seder. Dayenu means it would have been enough. A remix is a reinterpretation of a pre-existing song. This is a Dayenu remix story. If I could stay in bed, trapped in the morning sweet dream before jolting awake to check my nerve-wracking email, that would be enough. If I could get to the sink without taking inventory of my wrinkles in a magnifying mirror, that would be enough. If I could spend the best part of the day on meaningful goals and the last exhausted hours on mindless minutia and not the other way around, that would be enough. If I could love my adoring, absent-minded soulmate without keeping score of who last emptied the dishwasher, took out the trash, and left the back door unlocked again, that would be enough. If I could fully love my family without replaying tired scripts, silently stewing over their imagined wrongs and expecting them to be like people they are not, meaning like me, that would be enough. If I could meet you and see you and listen to you as if you were a dazzling, inspiring soul made in the image of God without fearing you or judging you, that would be enough. If I could remember that I can't afford to waste 1 minute in this short life, that would be enough. If I could know in my bones that I am blessed with limitless freedom and am a slave only to my own puny thinking, that would be enough. If I could take a page from the Torah that freedom is scary, but slavery is deadly, especially self-slavery. And letting go will lead to the promised land, and that God designed us to bow only to limitless compassion, eternal truth, and to our internal truth. That would be way more than enough.
I hope that you enjoyed that. It might not be for my children, but I thought that it was something that raised some provocative thoughts for me and hopefully for you as well as to what it means to say Dayenu for us today. And we can pause here after our song and celebration to observe a new tradition with many old meanings. Think back to the story we're telling tonight and remember, there would have been no Exodus, no Passover, no Seder, no freedom without the many brave women who played crucial roles in the Passover drama. There would have been no Exodus without Shifra and Puah, the midwives who refused to follow Pharaoh's orders to drown newborn Israelite boys. Without Yocheved, who hid her baby, Moses, for 3 months, then wove him a little basket so he could float safely down the Nile. Without Pharaoh's daughter, who defied her father, the king of all Egypt, when she rescued an Israelite child and drew Moses from the water. And last but not least, the Exodus could never have happened without Miriam the prophet, who watched over Moses, who brought her mother to Pharaoh's daughter, who led the singing and celebration after our safe crossing through the Sea of Reeds. And I was going to say, Rabbi Sobo, do you want to finish reading that page?
Legend also tells us that Miriam found the well that kept us alive during the 40 years we wandered in the wilderness before we came into the promised land. Let us read the following words aloud together. Let us now dedicate this cup of water to the memory of Miriam, to the women of our Exodus, and to the women in our own lives who help heal us and repair our world.
Thank you, Rabbi Sobo. I didn't realize that was such a bad time, and I apologize because I just want to say thank you for being a fabulous mother that you can do all of this at the same time. And you are one of those names of people that I will say aloud, and I'll let us all say names of women who have been wonderful and powerful in our lives, if you would like to.
Rabbi Karen.
Me.
And now we say that there are still symbols that we have yet to talk about that are on our Seder plate. And we know that Rabban Gamliel would tell us that if you didn't explain the things, the shank bone, the matzah, and the maror, our bittul herbs, guys, hasn't done Passover justice. As this has been a difficult year for us, we will examine these symbols through the lens of mental health. And I was going to say, I'm trying to see who hasn't read. Rita, have you read yet? Rita, what would you like to read?
No.
Yes? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted there for a minute. Okay, the shank bone, zeroah. This roasted bone represents both the sacrifice Jews made to be spared from the terrible plague, the 10 plagues, and the outstretched arm, which in the story of Passover brings the Jews out of slavery. The shank bone is the helping hand lent to those who need it most. We all struggle. That's part of being human. We all will have tough times when we need that helping hand. If we can remember to accept help, we can move forward and start to heal. And when we are in a stable place, free from what has kept us stuck and oppressed, we can reach out to those still struggling, remembering that as humans, we will go back and forth between freedom and oppression.
All right, thank you. That was beautiful. Linda Novak, do you want to read?
Yes, I'm going to see if some of my stuff is covered up, but let me see if I can get to it. Hold on. Okay, egg, Betza. The egg represents the life cycle. It's a reminder that there are times of sacrifice, but also times of hope. After winter comes spring, and so it goes for mental health. It's traditional to roast or char the egg, leading to a fun interpretation. An egg, just like us, is resilient. The hotter the flame, the tougher we get. We aren't weakened by struggle. We overcome it and become stronger.
Thank you. For our vegetable, Lynn or David Goldenberg, would one of you like to read that? Lynn or David, I don't know if you can unmute yourselves or not. But we can come back to you. Dean Berman, would you like to read? Okay, so now I need people to raise hands so I can see who would like to read. Skip, have you read yet?
No, I haven't read yet.
Please read.
Vegetable, karpas. The vegetables represent spring and regrowth, but we also dip them in salt water to remind us of the tears of slavery. At the same time, we are meant to keep in mind the sorrow of pain and the joy regrowth brings, remembering all the while that we can both struggle and love ourselves. At any given time, we are struggling and we are growing. We may feel broken, but we are worthy. We acknowledge our past, accept ourselves for who we are, and then face forward, working on ourselves to help us to get to a better place.
Beautiful, thank you. And who would like to read the next part?
You want?
Lisa, do you want to read? Or Anne, are you going to read?
Bitter herbs, twice. And what? How do you say that?
Good.
I don't know what they are, the words.
Maror and chazeret.
Thank you. The bitter herbs we eat, sometimes begrudgingly, remind us of the bitterness of slavery. We aren't meant to forget our struggles. Rather, at Passover, we bravely look at them square in the face and acknowledge they are what have led us to this moment.
Thank you. I would say, Julie, have you read?
Yes, right.
Julie, would you like to do that?
Rosa. Yeah. This reddish or brownish mixture of apples, wine, and cinnamon meant to symbolize the clay used to make the bricks and the mortar during slavery. Although it calls to mind hard work, it's sweet, representing the joy of freedom. In the Seder, we mix the bitter herbs with charoset, a reminder that freedom, like resilience, is hard work. It's bitter and it's sweet. And most important, it requires being an active participant in our own lives.
Beautiful, thank you. And then we have Bechol Dor Vador, Chayav Adam Lerot et Atzmo Ke'ilu Hu Yatsa Mitzrayim. In every generation, each person's duty is to regard themselves as though they personally left Egypt. The Seder reminds us that it was not only our ancestors whom God redeemed us too, along with them. By celebrating Pesach each year, we remember the past and are able to appreciate the freedom we now have. And now we take up our second cup and we recite the words. Courtney, did you want to do this one, since I don't think the words are strange this time?
Sure. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Praise to you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And we drink and lean to our left.
Yes, and I'm not sure which direction I'm leaning when I do this, but it is my left. And now we have our second hand washing. So if anyone has, again, their hand sanitizer, or perhaps your hand sanitizer out, or would like to go and wash your hands, now would be the time to do that. And when you return, you can recite the blessing. Everyone doing okay so far? Excellent. Good. I would say, Amy, do you want to read the blessing for us? You're muted.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al hanitlat yadayim. Blessed who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to wash our hands, which we've been commanded many, many times.
And now we get to our motzi. And we actually have two blessings, of course, that we say for the matzah. So we'll wait until we finish the second blessing before we actually eat. I was gonna say, Teresa, you had your hand up before. Did you want to do the blessing? Teresa, did you want to do this blessing?
Oh, you want me to?
Yes, please. I think you had your hand up before.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, eternal our God, who brings bread from the land.
And then my son just asked if you were from Israel because he could recognize that accent. And now, would you like to do the second one for us?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
And so we can distribute the top and the middle matzah for everyone to eat. And the children have decided you've definitely spent time in Israel.
Definitely Hebrew. Okay, I don't want this much.
Okay, you don't have to. I'll take some. Hmm? Oh. And now we have the second time that we dip in our service, which my family knows we don't care for, but I think some people do. My husband does. So, is there somebody else who would like to read?
I can.
Okay. Somebody. All right. I think Joan is going to read.
In creating a holiday about the joy of freedom, we turn the story of our bitter history into a sweet celebration. We recognize this by dipping our bitter herbs into the sweet charoset. We don't totally eliminate the taste of the bitter with the taste of the sweet. But doesn't the sweet mean more when it's layered on the bitterness?
Okay. And now we dip the bitter herb in the charosis.
So Romaine let us out of the fridge for that.
And you can take a little bit of the charosis, buddy. Hopefully you've all had a chance to do that. Oh. I'm not one who cared for it. Sorry for the face.
You hand me the charosis. You can put it with your bitter herb if you want to, but you don't have to.
No.
Rabbi, a suggestion?
Yes.
I think maybe some people might be blocking their screen if they're in the wrong viewing mode. Just a suggestion that maybe you want to put it just on the speaker or and get the gallery out of the way, and because I know that can block some of the writing. Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. May we be unenslaved by that, right? And now we say our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. Blessed are you, eternal our God, who hallows us with the mitzvot, commanding us to eat our bitter herbs. And we have our sandwich, the Hillel sandwich. I don't know if any of the Goldenbergs are back, but if you are and you'd like to read, we'd love to have you.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Good. Eating the sandwich tonight reminds us of the temple sacrifice in Jerusalem as performed according to Hillel. In the days of the temple, Hillel, the head of the Sanhedrin, used to bind into one sandwich Pesach, lamb, matzah, and maror. He ate them all together. In order to observe the law, you shall eat it, the Pesach sacrifice on matzah and maror. We combine the sweet and bitter elements of the sandwich as a reminder not to remain complacent about others' suffering during the times of ease and comfort, not to lose our capacity for hope and joy in times of struggle.
Thank you. And now we take the third bottom matzah, or whichever matzah you have, prepare a sandwich of the matzah, maror, and charoset. We eat while we're reclining to the left. And I'll just point out also that reading, I just really liked it, is from our brand new Haggadah, the Mishkan HaSeder, which the CCAR has just published. So hopefully you'll have a chance to see parts of that in the future.
See, this is not the new.
Oh, it isn't. Okay.
I don't think so. I think this is a compilation. Oh,
okay.
And this is a beautiful reading by a friend of mine, Jen Gubitz, from this new Haggadah as well. I would say, Judy, have you had a chance to read? I can't remember.
I did early on, but if you want me to, I can. Nothing. As we recall the story of our people, our redemption from slavery in Egypt, we remember also the story of our own families, the journeys and experiences that shaped us, the people and places, and the faces that once sat across from us, shared meals with us, shared the story with us. It's in these moments of joyous holiday meals and family celebrations that we remember them.
And now we say Batei Avon, which is another way of saying bon appetit, or enjoy your meal. So if anyone would like to stay on and eat with us, you may, but I'm going to go ahead and share with you a link, which is going to lead you to the second part of the Seder. So if anyone feels more comfortable eating on their own and finishing it on their own, I will do that. It's also available on the YouTube channel, I believe, at this point, for those of you who have access to that. But that is
Thank you, Rabbi.
No, thank you. Thank you all for participating. I know some people really don't like being put on the spot, so if I did, I apologize, but know that your participation has helped to enrich my Seder and everybody else's. So thank you. Lovely to see you. And if anyone, again, would like to stay on, you're welcome to, but it's but you are welcome to eat on your own.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Thanks, Sameach, everybody.
I'm sorry, Chuck and Bee, that they couldn't see the whole thing. Hi, Lise. I see you. Your name is really small on my screen. I'm sorry I didn't call on you. Chag Sameach. And Richard, I'm sorry I didn't call on you.
Rabbi Karen,
yes.
We have it on the television. We have it on the television, so that may be the reason why we have a problem. It's a nice screen, but it's cutting off the right-hand side of.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. We've enjoyed it. We'll be back after dinner.
Okay, good. And did you get the link to be able to do that?
Did you get the link? No.
It's in the chat, or you can go to the YouTube channel, because it's a recording of the second part with me, if you would like. So you can do that whenever you finish your own dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. of freedom. And as we eat the afikomen, our last taste of matzah for the evening, we are grateful for moments of silliness and happiness in our lives. And so if you have any children or adults who like to be children, they are invited to find their hidden matzah at this time. And our children have found it, that's good. Everyone is invited to eat a piece of the afikomen while reclining to their left. Of course, we recline because it is a sign of freedom, right? And following any meal, we do Birkat Hamazon, which is because our tradition encourages us with the lines in Deuteronomy, and you shall eat and be satisfied and bless God for the good that has been given you. So that not only do we bless the food before we eat it, but then we bless it afterwards. And because I had a feeling we might not fully be 10 people, which is usually, what we try to do for a full Birkat. You only need 3, but I decided that it might be easier for us if we went with a tradition. Oops. Which tells us that if we're being chased by robbers or wild animals, there is a shorter version that is acceptable to say. So we're going to pretend that we have been chased and use this version tonight, which tells us we can say Barich Rachamana, Malka de Alma, Marea Dahai Pita, which is blessed is the merciful one, ruler of the world, creator of this bread. And now we continue with our third glass of wine. If you have still some wine or people at your table, we recite together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. We give praise to you, eternal our God, the sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine, as we drink our third cup of wine, and again, lean to our left, whichever direction I appear to be doing. This left. And on all nights at this time, we think of Eliyahu Hanavi, who is a symbol of our hope for future redemption, who is the bearer of good news. And the good news would be that it is time for the Messiah and it is time for the Messianic age. In Egypt, the doors of the houses were shut tight on the night of the 10th plague. Blood was marked, they used blood to mark the lintels on the doorposts where we now put a mezuzah. I think that's a much better choice for us. Today, we open our doors wide in expectation. We are no longer fearful, but hopeful. The Torah calls it a night of watching and looking towards a hopeful future. And so hopefully you have a cup for Elijah on your table. If not, you can do that at this time. And if you'd like to open your door for Elijah, you may do that as well. Scott's opening ours up. Thank you. Is Elijah there?
No.
Not this time?
I think you're in the bell now.
What?
I think Elijah rang the bell.
Oh, rang the bell and rang. It turns out that when I was growing up, we had an awful experience that we opened the door for Elijah and we discovered that my aunt's car had been stolen. It was a very interesting experience and we thought maybe Elijah had done it, but I don't think so. I think he really likes the wine. That's all he's there for.
I thought you were going to say like a raccoon came in or a skunk or something.
No, but that would be memorable.
Well, but all who were hungry eat then.
It's true. So let's sing Eliyahu Hanavi.
Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'yamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach
this is the time that we would offer psalms of praise. And so we offer a few songs of Hallel, but I think that we're going to offer a few words of Hallel instead, rather than singing. As we say, praise, O servants of God, praise God's name. May Adonai's name be blessed now and forevermore. God raises the poor from the dust, from the dung heap lifts the needy, to seat him among princes, among the princes of his people. God seats the barren woman in her home, the happy mother of her sons. Hallelujah. And when Israel went forth from Egypt, the house of Jacob, from a people of strange speech, Judah became God's Holy One, Israel, God's dominion. The sea saw them and fled. Jordan ran backward. Mountains skipped like rams, hills like sheep.
ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה. הללויה, 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 הללויה. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Now we continue with a tradition that at once was problematic for me, but I found a better way to express it, which is there's a tradition in a traditional Haggadah of a prayer that says, pour out your wrath. And it's talking about pouring out our wrath to those who would seek to destroy us or those who are different from us. And I've decided I left it out, but I actually prefer the opportunity to take it as an opportunity to add a prayer, which is instead of God pouring out wrath, we ask that God would pour out God's love. And we ask that God pours out love upon our allies who are our righteous Gentiles, those who have helped the Jewish people over the years to be able to live as a free people and to be able to practice, and for those, especially the righteous Gentiles during the Holocaust, who helped to free Jews who were at risk. So, or free them from actual houses of bondage. And so we recite, pour out your love on the nations who have known you and on the kingdoms who call upon your name, for they show loving kindness to the seed of Jacob, and they defend your people Israel from those who would devour them alive. May they live to see the sukkah of peace spread over your chosen ones and to participate in the joy of your nations. And with this, we are now at our fourth cup of wine. I might even have a little bit of wine left from my cup. And we recite our blessing one more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. As we lean to our left. And tonight is the first day that we count the Omer. We're told that on the second night of Pesach, we begin counting the 50 days from the Exodus of Sinai, from Pesach, the harvest of barley, until Shavuot, the harvest of the wheat. Traditionally, the rabbis interpret the counting as reflecting Israel's eager anticipation of the giving of the Torah at Sinai at Shavuot. The physical liberation, what we're experiencing now, is not an end in itself, but it must be wedded to a life of values and responsibility as we remember the giving of the Torah on Sinai at Shavuot. And so this is when we would rise and count off the first day of the Omer. As we say, I can't see myself. I can't. Hang on just a second.
If you move to the right or left, you'll be able to see it.
I'm barely there, and that's okay. Hineni muchan umizuman l'kayem mitzvat oseh shel sfirat haomer baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer hayom yom echad laomer. Today is the first day of the Omer. You may be seated. And then finally, we conclude with next year in Jerusalem. And so our Seder service is now concluded, its rites observed, and its purposes revealed. As we gathered together to celebrate the Seder tonight, may we be worthy to celebrate again in freedom next year. And may God, who redeemed our ancestors from slavery and degradation, redeem all who are enslaved and bring freedom and dignity to our entire world. And may we be God's partners in bringing redemption. Together, let us say, L'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. And I think I have the recording. No, but I can't click that and make it work. It doesn't work that way. There we go.
L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba'ah, l'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim.
And for those of you at home who would like to sing, there are a number of songs that are a part of our Seder that we obviously aren't going to be able to sing them all together here because it's hard to do by way of Zoom. But just remember, there's always that, a little kid, one single kid. We've got Adir Hu, and of course, there is that new tradition of the Ballad of the Four Children to the tune of Oh My Darling Clementine. But there are a number of other songs, and if you have the opportunity, you can put, Alexa or Siri to be able to put on some Passover songs for you if you don't have any of your own, and just enjoy our freedom and the opportunity that we had to be together once again. It's really wonderful. So thank you guys for hanging in there. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. We'll see you soon. Tiffany and the Lees and Amy, I don't know if she's back from her dinner, but I think this concludes our Seder. Tina, I don't know if you, Rabbi Soba, wanted to say goodbye.
Chag Sameach, y'all.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Sameach. We'll see you guys soon. Be well.
Maseh.